pleasure and honor to introduce Steve DeAngelo.
Let's have a really, really big hand for Jim. What a stroke of genius to do this event. What a stroke of genius. 2 years from now, Olympians are going to be coming to this event. NFL players are going to be coming to this event. NBA players are going to be coming to this event. All over the world, athletes are just waiting for the invitation that Jim has given them. Thank you, Jim. So, I'm going to challenge you today to rethink your conception of cannabis, probably, and to rethink your conception of healthcare. And some new big ideas. I think when we're dealing with big ideas, lots of times the best way to grasp them is with a story. So I'm going to start with a story here. It's sort of a composite story. I go to a lot of events, a lot of conferences, and frequently somebody will come up to me and they'll say something like this. They'll go, you know, Steve, I totally support what you're doing. I really think the patients need this medicine. I'm a passionate defender of medical cannabis. And you know me, I've been using cannabis for 30 years myself, but I'm not sick. I just really like it, you know? I wouldn't go to the hospital if I didn't use it or anything. I'm just, you know, just a stoner. And so I'll say, okay, let's talk about this a little bit. Tell me how you actually use cannabis. When do you use it? Why do you use it? What does it do for you? And I'll get a story that goes something like this. Well, you know, I get off of work. It's been a long day. My boss hasn't been so kind to me. I'm not feeling so patient. My stomach is kind of sour. My back is aching. I breathe in a bunch of fumes during rush hour. I get home. I'm not really so eager to play with the kids or hear about my wife's day. My stomach's kind of sour. I don't have a great appetite. You know, I'll sit down in front of the TV. I'll eat dinner. And, you know, sometimes I just fall to sleep in front of the TV afterwards. But if I do a little cannabis, everything's different. I feel fine. I'm not impatient. I'm not angry. I'm not still pissed off at my boss. My back pain goes away. I'm really as happy to play with my kids as they are to play with me, and I'm interested to reunite with my wife at the end of the day. The meal sounds like a really great idea, and I enjoy it. I got no indigestion. Put the kids to sleep, and me and the wife have a little, you know, extra special intimate time. Then we go to sleep. I sleep the night through. I wake up. I'm good, I'm clear, and I'm ready for another day. Well, think about this. If this person had gone to an MD, had gone to a physician, they might get a diagnosis of depression, anxiety, anger management, rheumatoid arthritis, acid reflux, low T, erectile dysfunction, insomnia, and would be loaded up with a whole range of pharmaceuticals. We see these things advertised every night on TV for the same kinds of ailments that I'm talking about, the same kinds of conditions. But they come with a list of side effects that's like something out of a Stephen King novel, right? Liver failure, night sweats, possible suicide, and death. Well, cannabis is a safe and natural alternative for every single one of these conditions. Nobody's ever died from it, and nobody ever will. Nobody's liver is going to stop working, and they're not going to commit suicide because they're using cannabis. We don't have to speculate about this anymore. We know this because numerous studies have been done taking a look at public health statistics in states that have reformed their cannabis laws. And we found out things like in those states that deaths from overdoses of pharmaceutical painkillers have dropped by 25%. Traffic fatalities have dropped between 5% and 14% across the board. Violent crime, down. domestic violence down. And we know what's happening. We know what's happening because we know that most suicides, we know that most domestic violence, we know that most traffic fatalities are connected to alcohol and drinking alcohol. So now people are substituting. When they know that they can get cannabis legally and they can use it legally, they're drinking less, they're using less pharmaceutical painkillers, they're getting in less accidents, they're committing suicide less frequently, they're living longer, and they're living better. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people who are using cannabis, who are using it for these wellness purposes, don't even really recognize it themselves. And that's because for years and years, we've been living with an outdated concept of human health. We've been taught that there's illness and there's health, that you are either sick or you are healthy. If you're sick, you go to the doctor. Just like a mechanic, if your car breaks down, and then the doctor will give you a pill or will give you a procedure, and then you are healthy again. But we know that's not true. We know that the truth is that human beings operate on a graduated spectrum of wellness, and that things like exercise and diet and meditation and acupuncture and chiropractic and herbal therapies are at least as effective and probably more effective at preserving and enhancing human health than things like surgeries and these pharmaceuticals that turn you into a monster and kill you. But it gets even better than that, right? Because there's all these overlooked wellness benefits of cannabis that most people think of as just getting high. And I'm thinking about things like the ability to make you more playful, the ability to spark your imagination, the ability to enhance your enjoyment of a meal or the piece of music, the ability to open yourself to a spiritual experience or become more intimate with the person you love. That's not about getting intoxicated. That is about being well. It is about being well. Sadly, we've been left with this false choice in the prohibitionist concept of cannabis, and it's one that many of us have accepted. There's only two possibilities. You're either completely pure or you're totally corrupt. You are either dirty or you are clean. They scoff at the very notion of responsible cannabis use. And what happens? What happens when cannabis is illegal? What happens when you deny the possibility of responsible use is that you remove any positive role models for our kids. All over this country, we've got responsible cannabis users who are employed, who are taking care of their families, who, when they need to talk about cannabis, they talk about marijuana, their kids are around, and their voices drop. If they're going to use cannabis, they go into the garage, or they go into the backyard. Meanwhile, they're pouring wine in front of the kids, they're taking shots in front of the kids, they're talking about whiskey and alcohol like it doesn't matter. So now, our kids are left to learn about cannabis and what cannabis use should look like from Cheech and Chong, or from Snoop Dogg, or from stupid Hollywood stoner movies, instead of from their parents the way that they should be. This is real harm that's happening. People are dying on our roadways, people are committing suicide, people are dying of all sorts of complications from horrible pharmaceuticals because of this misconception, this misunderstanding of what cannabis is about. What we know from our own lives, from our own experience, is that when cannabis is used responsibly, when it's used with intention, it's not about getting high, it's about being well. Thank you. So I know this is sometimes a bit difficult for folks to wrap their minds around at the beginning. And if there's anybody out there that has some doubts about what I'm talking about, some questions that you'd like to raise, I found that often in that dialogue of talking with each other, that's where some of the real knowledge and the real understanding comes out. And we've all been lied to about this plant for decades. We're trying to figure it out together. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to engage in that dialogue. Everybody's a believer? All right, okay, thank you very much. Thanks, and let's have another hand. Where's Jim? Come up here, Jim. This guy is one of the most brilliant activists that I've met, and he's just started, okay? These 420 games, they're going to go around the world. You're going to see people 1,000 times more famous than me here, but I want you to remember, yeah? I was here with Jim at the beginning. Yeah.
Steve, you're the man. You're the man. Well, I'm going to wrap